We welcome in Bryan Munson of Husker Online. B. Munson, we know you're down in Texas. We know it gets hot down there. I think we're hitting 100 today, and with the humidity, we're in the feels like in the 110s, at least rumor has it. Is that the same for you down there?
It's been that way. Actually, what was funny was I think it was yesterday afternoon, we received a heat index warning for the next 2 days and 6 hours. I've never seen that before. So for like the next 54 hours from that point on Sunday afternoon, we were in a heat index warning. So it's been pretty brutal. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, we just got back from Tennessee as well, and in the mountains it was great. In Nashville it wasn't so much. Coming back here though, kind of the same deal. But yeah, it's been pretty brutal.
Does that make it feel like football down in Texas?
Honestly, it does. It's so sad because, they kind of work around the heat differently here. Like you'll even hear about high school coaches kicking off their fall camp, and they'll go out to work at 10 o'clock at night. And they'll go from 10 o'clock till midnight trying to get out of the heat a little bit. So it's, we're not quite into that yet. We're still wrapping up our last week of conditioning, and then we'll see that kind of like what happens when camp opens up. But yeah, it's usually that this is how the start of fall camp typically feels, unfortunately, for those guys out there.
Well, starting recruiting, Bryan, before we talk some Nebraska football fall camp, you just recently wrote about Kylon Haney out of the Omaha area. He's been a priority target for Nebraska for that 2027 class at running back. How does it sound like things are going between Haney and the Huskers, and what do they like about him?
I think things are going well. I mean, I think that Haney understands that he has some competition for maybe what might just be one spot for a running back in the 2027 class. I think he's well aware of that. I think he doesn't know who necessarily it is, but I think that Coach Barthel, has kind of told him that there's another guy that they're got their eye on. They're having to recruit him, etc. So I think Haney knows, what's at stake. And I think he feels very connected with Coach Barthel. I think that he has felt that way basically since the offer went down. I think he feels, he's got some pride that kind of goes along with it, being a guy that's from Omaha. I think he recognizes that. Obviously he's got his teammate there, Torrey Pittman. The two of them, basically represent, two of only three offers to players in the 2027 class, from Nebraska. So says a lot about that unit there next year or this fall at Central. But I think Haney feels like the Nebraska offense is just a really good fit. Like he looked at the guys that were in it, in the room last year, said, well, they're all kind of different looking. They all kind of do different things, and I can kind of do all of those things. And I'm really kind of working my way up to being a big play threat, like he just didn't rip off as many long runs as what he had, prior to this last season. And he's really kind of worked to increase and improve his straight line speed. So I think, and Kylon's, geez, I'm telling you, if you've not watched his like lifting videos on social media, that dude is strong. He is incredibly strong. So he's really put together, and obviously I think that's important for Nebraska, because I think you have to have that kind of build to be successful in the Big Ten, to be durable.
You mentioned Torrey Pittman as well, right? That's a guy that Nebraska has certainly been interested in. Some sites have elevated him to a 5-star, but a lot of places still, 4-star bordering on 5. But either way, that's a top 30, top 20-ish player in the class. How's Nebraska sitting with Torrey Pittman? What do they see in him, and who else is in on him?
I'm actually talking to Torrey tonight. Oh, I wish I knew better. But I mean, from talking to Torrey before in the past, the Huskers are there. I mean, it's absolutely going to be one of those things where it's going to be interesting to see what kind of market he is able to establish for himself this fall. That's really, really what's going to kind of be interesting to watch, because I think my assessment right now of like Matt Rule and what's happening at Nebraska is I'm not sure, how much money there is for a guy right out of high school to play safety. I don't know if they really see that as being that kind of big dollar kind of position. I think that they've had to go out, they had to go back and maybe kind of rewrite the rules around offensive tackles. And I think that that's finally led to, them having some success. But I just don't know. I don't know what the market's going to be on Torrey. I imagine that the market, when it gets set this fall for Torrey Pittman, it's going to be a big number. It's going to be a very big number, in fact. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how all that stuff kind of plays out as we kind of move into the spring and into the summer. But I think the Huskers are definitely right there in terms of teams that he is interested in.
It's interesting you bring that up, because I want to go now to John Butler, right, as the new defensive coordinator, also the secondary coach. It's not like Buffalo had, slouch safeties. And I feel like in the NFL, at least, Bryan, safeties are those, kind of erasers, right? You got a lot of the do-it-all guys, whether they can, play over the middle of the field, they can go, hash to hash or hash to sideline, opposite sideline, whatever it is. Do you have any recollection of from when John Butler was in Buffalo, how he used his safeties and the type of guy he might be looking for to fill that mold?
Well, he had a couple All-Pros back there. He's got usually a guy that's kind of a thumper, and usually a guy that's kind of more rangy. And I think he usually kind of built his defense around those two safety positions, and kind of where, things are kind of dropped off, honestly, since he's not been in Buffalo. If you asked me, a Buffalo Bills fan, that's where I would kind of say that safety play has been erratic. Injuries have been plaguing them back there. They don't have the dependable two all-pro safeties that they had just 3 years ago. So they build around safeties. And I think that they kind of feel like that eraser role, like you'd mentioned, is very, very important to have on the football field. And I think that it's quite the collection, I think, of skills to play that position and be successful with it at the next level. I think guys that don't have that lack the right foot speed, they get exposed. Guys that aren't typically rangy enough, guys that don't know how to play a ball in the air, guys that can just come downhill and just waylay guys. They have a value, but you'd really think more of those guys as kind of maybe even being like a second level dude, like a Milano that's kind of played safety at Boston College that gets moved into linebacker. Although he's still good in space, he's really good in the box. So I think Butler's got a really good eye for what makes players potentially very successful at the next level when it comes to the guys historically he's worked with before at Buffalo.
We're talking with Bryan Munson of HuskerOnline here on our Aloe Fiber VIP line. That was a sidetrack conversation from where I saw it going, but I think that's really instructive. Back to the offense and back to the running back position here, Bryan, a guy that we spent some time talking about throughout the course of the last year, making some waves over the summer and into fall camp as well. And that's the Kansas City product, Isaiah Mosey, follows his dad to Lincoln. Sounds like Isaiah Mosey was one that requested the position switch from wide receiver to running back. And if I'm not mistaken, he did play the position a little bit in high school, even though receiver was his primary position, correct?
Right. No, they got him involved. I mean, I remember talking to his coach so much last season because some of his numbers were just eye-popping. And they just did such a great job of trying to find ways to get him the football to make them successful. And I think, honestly, if you're probably talking to his former high school head coach a little bit about the way the season ended, it might come down to the fact that maybe they didn't get him the football enough in more creative ways, and maybe potentially there was a chance for a state championship. If he does do that, and Mosey's able to kind of be able to put more of a stamp on it. But I think the time in Lincoln so far has done Isaiah well. He's been able to kind of get into the weight room. He's been able to kind of stack on some weight. He's been able to see things that that are important to the offense. I think he's a really, really smart guy. And I think that when you kind of take that and you say, well, I've got a diverse background and I've got an ability to kind of be a first down running back, and I can do some things that are similar and different to EJ, as Nebraska kind of still struggles to kind of find another, suitable replacement backup kind of guy for EJ. Mosey, is a guy that is stepping into a pretty valuable role. and could have a big season for Nebraska. Somebody that not a lot of us were kind of planning on as a running back, but could have seen him obviously having a good season as a wide receiver as well. But yeah, this could be a really great move for him to kind of play a bigger role for Nebraska this fall.
Do you think it's a credit to Isaiah Mosey that he recognized the potential, opportunity in front of him at running back, or is that more of a knock maybe on what EJ Barthel has and hasn't been able to accomplish in terms of just getting bodies that are ready to go in that room?
Well, I don't think it helped. I don't think it helped the team that, Jamarian Parker, was not around basically in the spring. I don't think he took part in anything today either. No. It's really, you've really got to kind of try to figure out what's kind of going on with Parker. Is this a situation here where obviously he's still dinged up and he's still trying to get through things? Like I said, when you have that really productive winter and spring that did Mosey's body right, imagine if you just could have stayed healthy as Jamarian Parker to where what good that could have done for him. You're still playing catch up in the playbook. Now you're playing catch up on your body and trying to get it right to go play Big Ten football from, high school football in Arkansas. In Missouri. I'm just sitting here going, I don't think that things have kind of gone the best for Parker so far, and now it seems like they're carrying on into fall camp. So I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons is there's a gap in the room, because I think it was Parker's spot. If he could just kind of step up into it and be that guy, and then I think you had two kind of change of pace guys. With like Connor Booth, who got some kudos from some people today, and Quentin Ives, that are kind of a couple bigger back dudes. So, yeah, I think that this is a good move for Mosey and what he could do for Nebraska back there.
Not just to play all the hits, but how much of this current quandary at running back is maybe due to the Kawan Lacey saga not going Nebraska's way?
It could have been. I mean, I think that when you miss on a guy like that, you need to be able to kind of be able to go back and say, obviously you're going to feel some impact the following year, but you need to be able to kind of take a step forward in year two and not feel still the impacts from that one. But Lacey, I think we would agree, all felt like he was a very talented individual. He certainly would have been in position, to be challenging, EJ for probably starting on the team, this fall. So it's interesting. It's kind of, you hope that that's not the case, but obviously if you kind of sat down and thought about it in terms of his talent and his abilities and how Nebraska kind of valued him, it probably does still play a factor.
Last thing then before we let you go, Bryan, as the calendar flips from July to August here in just a few days, we know that we're 31 days out from the kickoff between Nebraska and Cincinnati. In terms of that Kansas City game, what will Nebraska be able to do in terms of recruiting? We know there's a lot of connections down there, especially with Jamar Mosey. Will Nebraska be able to invite any players in the Kansas City area to that game? Or what are kind of the rules, regulations around a game like that at Arrowhead?
It's a great question, because I think that when, being down here in Dallas, where the Red River rivalry kind of takes place, I don't think that those schools can invite recruits to that game, even like when one team is the home team and the other team is like visitor, because of the neutral site. So I gotta think that if you're going to the game, it's going to be very much like a bowl game. I would think that you would just have to be kind of a paying person that would have a chance to kind of go in there and just watch the game from your seats. Like if you were going to watch Nebraska play against Minnesota later on this season at Minnesota, you just have to kind of pay the price of admission and kind of sit down on the seats. But I will look into that a little bit further, but I don't think there's anything Nebraska can really do to host recruits in Kansas City. I think it'd be more like, we're going to play these games, and if you're from this area, it's cool because now your folks can come down and watch you play here, which is a lot closer than having to go to Piscataway, or somewhere else too. Like, you're going to play essentially another home game if you stay in the area.
makes sense. I just didn't know, since Nebraska's been trying to recruit Kansas City more, if that could be a boost to the Huskers or not. Bryan Munson, Husker Online, with us here on our Allo Fiber VIP line. B. Munson, as always, appreciate your time, appreciate your insight. Excited to get back into the swing of football season, football recruiting. Thanks a ton for always joining us, and great to talk to you, man.
Stay cool, man. Drink that water.